Use test 1 2.
Still have us on. Yep. You still have our Google up.
Use test 1 2.
Still have us on.
Do you hear the microphone? Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test. Testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Use test 1 2.
Still have us on.
Do you hear the microphone? Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Use test 1 2.
Still have us on.
Do you hear the microphone? Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Use test 1 2. Do you hear the microphone? Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Use test 1 2. I can test 1 2. Test 1 2. 3 4. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Use test 1 2. I can test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. I can test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Good evening, everybody. And good evening to everybody on Facebook and the YouTube channel. Welcome to the 2022 candidate debate. My name is Vanessa Van Dam, and I am the Executive Director for the Chamber of Commerce. First, I would like to start by saying thank you to all the candidates who are here. I know all of you are very busy, and we are greatly appreciated of your presence here this evening. I would also like to thank the Thief River Falls Radio and their staff for setting everything up, and the Eagles for hosting us. And I would also like to thank Keith Teeters for helping us out tonight. And we have a very informative night planned, as we will be hearing from many candidates. And now I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Keith Teeters.
Thank you, Vanessa. Before we start this evening, I'd like to congratulate each candidate participating tonight, acknowledging the courage that it takes to run for public office and the debt of gratitude we have to each and every one of you for taking on the ultimate in public service. Thank you. And thank you to our timer as well this evening, Marlene Anderson. Okay. First up tonight in the great debate is the race for school board in Thief River Falls. We have 6 candidates. The top 4 vote getters in the upcoming November 8th general election will take office, and we have all 6 candidates with us this evening. Starting with introductions and one of our incumbent school board members, Ryan Walsath. Mr. Walsath, you will have 2 minutes for your introduction, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Keith. Well, I'm glad to be here. I enjoyed, I'm currently the school board chair and part of our school over the last 4 years. I was born and raised in Thief River Falls and moved other places, and eventually, I got smart, came back to my hometown and raised my children, and they're going to the same school that I went to. So it's been a real privilege to be part of the board. I'm also a small business owner in Thief River Falls. So very, very much involved in whatever I can be involved in. And volunteering throughout the community has been a big part of what I like to do, what I choose to do. There's a lot of pride with my community. So thank you all for having me. That's about it.
Thank you. Our next incumbent is Michelle Westerman. Ms. Westerman, you will have 2 minutes for your introduction, and your time starts now.
Well, my name is Michelle Westerman. I am currently the board clerk, and I have been a part of this community my entire life. I am the co-owner of Johnson's Riverside Legacy Event Center, Legacy Catering, and North Star Promoting Independence in our community. Community means everything to me. Being born and raised here, I was a proud prowler. And I would like to say that my children are also growing up in our community and in our district, and they're having a really good educational experience, and I just want that for all kids in our community. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Our third incumbent is Michael Spears. Mr. Spears, you have 2 minutes to make your introduction, and your time starts now.
Good evening. My name's Mike Spears. I've been a school board member since January 1 of '99, a long time. I was not born here or raised here, but I did move to town in '79, so I've been here for a long time. Feel this is our home. So myself and my wife, Cammie, have 4 children who have all been through our school system. Graduated with great education, moved on in life. My second son and my oldest daughter both live in town yet. My oldest daughter is currently a teacher at Challenger and loves her job there. My wife, Cammie, works as an EA there. And since I retired, I took on bus driving, and contrary to popular belief, it is a good job, and the kids on my bus anyway behave pretty good. So you give them a good morning, and they'll usually be pretty good for you. So School board is an important job, and experience is very important to make wise and sound decisions for our school board. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. And now our candidates for school board, Kayla Leon. Ms. Leon, you will have 2 minutes for your introduction, and your time starts now.
Thank you. My name is Kayla Leon, and I was a teacher actually in the district for 5 years, I think it was. We moved home in 2016. I'm married to Christopher Leon, and he is currently a teacher at Franklin Middle School. Together we have 5 boys, and we have 3 of them that are at Challenger right now, and then we've got 2 other little ones that'll be proud prowlers coming up in the district. So to say that we've got quite a bit of our family invested within the district, I think would be a major understatement. My dad was also a teacher in the district, Jeff Lowe, and so growing up, we were big into our prowler pride and big part of the community, and I know that my educational experience within the district was pretty empowering, especially moving around and seeing other communities and other districts throughout my teaching career and just after college. Moving around a little bit, I definitely realized what a gem we have here in Thief River and how devoted our community is to our school district is definitely something that I want to be a part of. And because I'm no longer an educator at this school, I definitely want to be a part of the district in another capacity. My current role right now, I work for Thrivent Financial, and so being a business owner and seeing the financial side as well as understanding the inside of the schools and how they work, I feel like would be a major benefit to have on the school board.
Thank you. Our next candidate is John P. Mattson. Mr. Mattson, your introduction, you have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Thank you very much. Greetings. My name is John Mattson. I was born and raised in Warren, Minnesota. I returned to Northwest Minnesota after college to run. After selling the newspaper in 2010, I have been a substitute teacher in 5 different school districts. I've been in Florida at 4 different schools and 3 different schools in Minnesota. I've been in Goodrich, Newfolden, and Warren. This has given me a unique experience in learning how to work with different school administrators, fellow teachers, paraprofessionals, as well as all students from preschool to seniors. I believe that our schools are in the business of educating students. Therefore, our school district should be operated like a successful business. One of the most important duties of our school board should be to operate the district such that expenses do not exceed the amount of the revenue that it receives annually. Careful budgeting should be rule number 1, not just trying to raise taxes. The school board needs to work closely with school administrators, all staff, students, and parents in deciding how best to set its annual budget. If elected to the 564 school board, I will be an advocate for effective student education and a careful steward of your school tax dollars. I'd very much appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. And now John Sievertson. Mr. Sievertson, you will have 2 minutes for your introduction, and your time starts now.
Thank you, and thank you for the Chamber of Commerce and Thief River Radio for putting this on. Appreciate that. I'm John Sievertson. I'm currently a vice president.
Please hold, Mr. Sievertson. We're going to ask you to start over. Okay. And we'll ask our tech crew. And one more time, if you'll just give me, okay, that works. We're nothing if we're not flexible. Okay. Mr. Sievertson, You have 2 minutes for your introduction. Mr. Sievertson is on Mr. Matson's mic right now. Okay. And your time starts now.
And what I had said before was thank you to Thief River Falls Radio and the Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate putting this together for us. My name is John Sievertson. I'm currently a vice president at Northern State Bank. My wonderful wife, Tanya, and I have raised 2 children, Jude and Nora, here in Thief River Falls. This is their hometown. It's been my goal to make Thief River Falls a place that they are proud to be from. I work hard to do my part. I'm involved in the community. I am on the Thief River Falls Chamber of Commerce board. I'm in the Thief River Falls Rotary Club and on their board. I am one of the founding members of Falls Under 40, the young professionals group in Thief River Falls. I'm also on the HRA board for Thief River Falls. In fact, this past year I was awarded the honor of Chamber of Commerce's Volunteer of the Year, which is an award I'm very proud of. Now, these different organizations are a great asset to our community, and they all do great things. But the organization that right now has the biggest impact on my children's lives and all of our children's lives is the school. And that is why I am seeking your vote at school board. My wife was previously a special education teacher at Franklin. She saw how great this district truly can be from the inside. My kids go to school in this district and have some amazing teachers and staff that I've gotten to know, and I know they care about children. I care deeply for this district and truly want what's best and will work hard for the children of this district. This school district is why Tanya and I chose to live here when we moved here about 11 years ago. We wanted to start our family here. We knew this was a great place to raise a family, and we knew it was a great school district to be in. I haven't regretted moving here one bit. Please consider me when you cast your vote for school board this November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sievertson. So candidates drew straws before tonight's event to determine who would go first. Each will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. After each answer, all candidates will be given the option of a 30-second rebuttal, and then the candidate that answered the question will have the opportunity for a 30-second response. The short straw went to Michelle Westerman. So Ms. Westerman, your first question. Following the loss of the 2021 operating referendum and renewal, the Thief River Falls School District formed a long-term planning advisory committee, which is proposing another property tax referendum in the fall of 2023. Do you support another referendum, and how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
So I am a part of that long-term planning committee that is just had its first meeting at the beginning of this past month. We're meeting monthly. The one thing that's going to be different this time around with the referendum is that we have different community stakeholders that are putting their input in this. It's truly a team effort. They are open meetings if people want to come and participate. I do firmly believe that we do need to go for another operating levy for the simple fact that this year, after last year's budget cuts, that was one of the hardest times, I could say, as a school board member for all of us. It was many sleepless nights. We didn't make any of our decisions or take them lightly. We weighed out all of the odds when it came to making those cuts. And one of the things that we saw this year was increased class sizes. And that is something that, when you look at staffing numbers and class sizes, that we need to take into consideration, not only for the students and their educational learning, but also for the district staff. I think we have some wonderful district paras and educators and administrators that are doing a great job this year, given the circumstances that we've had to face over the last, I'm going to even say 3 years. It's been a challenge. But I think that with this operating levy, if we target it towards the things that we need within our community, which is what this group is doing, every time that we meet, we're discussing the wants and needs of the community and what that looks like. And what are some needs that people want to see, and where are we going to take it, and how are we going to go after it? So it's really, at this point, we're in the baby steps process, but we are meeting monthly to discuss that with the different stakeholders to make the determination of what are we going to go after, what's important for our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. There is an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. Just raise your hand. If not, we'll ask that same question to the next candidate, Michael Spears. Mr. Spears, do you support another referendum? And how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes. Your time starts now.
Yes, I support going back to the voters again with the operating levy amount. Last time it was, the voters made their voice clear that it was too large of an amount for the vote to pass. So that's why we've formed the committee that's operating now to take a look at all the things that come into play here and come up with an amount that hopefully will be satisfactory to our voters. Just a couple facts on our monies is 80% plus of our dollars is spent on salaries and benefits. So over the years, we've made cuts almost every year for the last 10 at least. In areas of supplies, everything there has been looked at quite strenuously and cuts made there. But so we're down to salaries and benefits when we do have to make cuts, and that's the hard part. 2004 was the last time we asked for more operating money. We renewed in 2010 at the same amount as what we were operating on before. That was the year we did our building bond, and the reason for staying the same was to help us pass the building bond, which was much needed in our district too. So some areas that the money will be spent on is to renew our technology. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when we did our building bond, technology was built into that. We started with the one-to-one technology, plus we built in 3 times of renewal of that. Well, that money is used up now, so technology will be one of the issues, and then salaries and benefits to keep and attract and retain qualified employees.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Thank you. There is an option for 30-second rebuttal. If not, we'll ask the same question to Ms. Leon. Do you support another referendum, and how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I think for anybody sitting on the other side, it's a little bit harder for us to answer it because we are not in the committees that the school board members are currently on to see the actual dollars and allocations. I can speak from being an educator for the past 13 years and the last 5 being in Thief River. Every year that I taught here from 2016 on, I was always afraid that my job was going to get cut. So I know that the budget cuts have been a constant. Where that's coming from, again, I can say my opinions on what I'd like to see happen, but without actually being on the other side and knowing the facts. Those are 2 different things. So if I were able to have a better idea and be in the meetings and hear where our budget is, I would say yes, I would support an operating referendum if that's what our students need, if that's what our teachers need, if that's what our schools need. There's a big difference between operating referendums and building referendums. Building referendums go back to exactly what they say, the building, and operating is literally operating our schools. And if that's something that we have to go to the taxpayers to ask for, like Mike said, the community spoke loud and clear that it didn't pass last time, and so going back and checking what amounts are needed and what amounts can be kind of finagled and figured out, that's something that I would definitely be willing to take a look at and go from there. If that is something that, looking through all that, I see that the district needs, then yes, that is an operating referendum is something that I would definitely support.
Thank you. There is an opportunity for 30-second rebuttal. Just raise your hand. We'll ask that question then again to Mr. Mattson. Mr. Mattson, do you support another referendum, and how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Thank you. Well, as Mrs. Lean was saying, we don't know as much as the current school board members because they've been part and parcel to. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just a moment, we're going to check the mic situation. David? No? Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Severson, would you give your mic? We did this once, but yeah, we'll just pass it back and forth here. Okay.
Okay, is this one working? Okay, thank
Do
you.
you need a repeat of the question?
No.
Okay, your time starts.
Okay, thank you. Well, as Mrs. Lean was saying, we're not currently on the school board, so we don't have the privilege of knowing as much information as the current school board members. However, I will say this, the last operating referendum that was attempted to be passed was, I think, done poorly. Obviously, I think the school board learned from that, and they're trying to go about doing it better currently by having more input from the entire community. That's what's needed. And a reasonable amount would have to be decided upon. I think the last amount was way too much. I think the voters reacted to that. You know, passing an operating revenue referendum depends on how the economy is, what inflation is, how the crops are, and a person has to take that into account. I do believe that the business manager, which would be the superintendent, would be an important part of this, and I don't think the last superintendent was very good at that. They need a new superintendent that would be good with finances and good at budgeting and putting forth numbers so that the committee can decide, well, how much money do we need to ask the voters for? That's an important issue. And as far as how the money should be used, well, there again, it falls on the shoulders of the day-to-day business manager, and you need a good superintendent for that. You need a superintendent with a background in business management, a background in finance, someone that's been around the block a few times, that's run a couple other school districts. And with that in mind, and working with the committee, that would be the way to proceed on an operating referendum.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. And now we'll do a little bit of a mic shuffle again. Thank you so much for sharing. And Mr. Severson, is there a 30-second rebuttal? Well, that's an opportunity for that. Okay, Mr. Severson, we'll ask you the question. Do you support another referendum, and how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Thank you. I guess I'll echo what's already been said. Yeah. Testing. No. Maybe it's me. I guess. Is this one working? See, it's me. Hello. Well, the rest are probably off, but is it working? All right. Echo? Now is it echo? Better? Yeah, as the others have echoed, there is no way that I would know the ins and outs of what's being discussed on the referendum for now, but I will say that I would normally be in support of an operating referendum. I do think that there were some holes, I shouldn't say holes, there were some ways we could improve trying to do the last referendum. I think a big part of it was just letting people know what we're getting, what we're getting for the money. I think I had a lot of people ask me that as I was one that was vocally supportive. What are we getting for this money? And I think that needs to be really laid out there. And what could we lose if we don't get this money? I think there's a lot of people that were disappointed with some of the things that were cut and said, well, we didn't know this would be happening. Well, we probably should share that. We probably should let people know that this is why we need this money. This is why it's so important. The amount was probably too high. That was the other thing I have heard when I've asked people that they have, but it also depends what we need. Until I'm in that role, I don't really know what exactly is needed, but I do know that we need an operating referendum, especially if, like Mr. Spears said, our technology money has kind of run out. We need money just to keep the technology going, which means either we don't use that technology or the, possibly more cuts. We don't want to see that. So I think that I do trust the school board, and I hope I can be a part of that to make good decisions on what this next operating referendum would be, but I would be in support of an operating referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And our question moves to School Board Member Ryan Walseth. Ryan Walseth. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, the question is, do you support another referendum, and how should those operating dollars be targeted? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Sure. Well, keeping in mind that, everything we do is about the kids. So for that reason, I do support a referendum in our situation. We're in a precarious position as a school board of our school district of having to ask the taxpayers whether or not they want to pay those taxes. So we have to make it a reasonable amount. County and city are able to take taxes. I shouldn't say take taxes, but elected officials are able to do that, whereas we have to kind of ask. So the taxpayers speaking loud and clear has caused us to do one thing, and that's do our next referendum the right way. So we're exploring it, like everybody's mentioned, with the long-term planning committee, community leaders. It's open to the public. There's a lot of input. We're really asking everybody what they would like to see our school district be like in the future. So I'm excited to be a part of that. I was at that first meeting as well. Things that could be used for, maintaining the programs we have. Class sizes, I was able to visit Lincoln High School a few weeks ago and see some of our more crowded rooms, and I'm telling you, it's not any way to learn. There are kids just literally stacked on top of each other, and the teacher can't really walk around the room. So it's really something that we need to fix. So for that reason, it's important. I think we need to be competitive with our wages between the drivers, our licensed staff, our teachers, because we have a great situation here with low unemployment, so we need to be really competitive to get the top talent. And then, no, that's what all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walseth. Our next question will go to, 30-second rebuttal, anyone? Okay, our next question will start with Mr. Spears. Mr. Spears, the Thief River Falls School District has abandoned proposals for an online learning academy in favor of using ESSER funds, one-time emergency COVID dollars, to ease staff cuts and avoid further layoffs. Currently, full-time online learning is reserved only for snow days, with the district committed to in-person class time. Our question is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I think for most students, and we found that out in the COVID years there, for most students, in-person learning is still the best. Get the social interaction with other kids, with adults, with the teachers, with the bus drivers. We took a long, hard look at online learning to start our own academy, and unfortunately, the expense per student was a long ways out of range. Basically, what it was doing was taking learning dollars away from the majority of our kids. And even though it maybe was a better idea for a few of our students, and we might have been able to steal some students from other districts for it, the cost per student is just not cost worthy for our district to go into that. If there was plenty of money and it would be something that we'd look at again, but unfortunately, when the budget's tight and we still have to think about taking care of the majority of our students and not just a small group, which online learning would have done. We did see during COVID that some of our higher end students didn't do so well with distance learning, and some of our lower end students to speak did very good with online learning. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there as to the value of it. But cost-wise, it wasn't effective for our district to go into that.
Thank you. Option for 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Ms. Lynn. Is in-person the best learning model, or should more online be option? It's easy for me to say. Is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Very similar to what Mike said, I think it's very dependent upon the age of the child and the individual child. To put a big blanket over it and say that in-person works or online works better, I don't think would do a lot of our children service. So I know that's a very political answer, but not giving you an answer. I do think, like Mike said, to keep the revenue, because of our current situation, it wasn't an option at this time. I would like to be able to, again, see more with the budget and be part of the school board to kind of figure out a creative way to maybe get an online option for those students that they are successful. I do know a handful when I taught at the middle school during COVID, a handful of the students did shine during online learning. I also know that our COVID online teaching is very different than a structured online program that you would purchase from a company. So to compare what we did in 2020 and 2021 in our classrooms and trying to push out on an iPad to a program that a district would actually purchase and they would have, that was built for that by professionals, I think those are two very different things. So that's a different conversation to have as well. But long answer, I do think in person is best for most, but not all. And if it was within the budget, I'd like to be able to, I think that's a great way to keep revenue in the district, to be able to offer something like that.
Thank you. Option for 30-second rebuttal. We're finding a good mic to get rolling here. Okay, and the question moves to Mr. Mattson. Mr. Mattson, is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Thank you. Is this mic working? Yeah. Very good. Well, as Mr. Spears and Mrs. Lean said, I believe in-person learning is probably the best for most students. I think some of the older students already can do online learning, take college classes through high school. I know at the schools that I substitute teach at, there's students at all the schools that I go to that are taking some online classes, through college classes for high school credit. So that's already there. And you know, as far as the amount of the cost per student or starting an online program at lower grades, you know, I haven't been part of that study like the current school board was, but I just really feel that the interaction of the students with the teachers and their peers and the bus drivers and all the people, that is probably a better learning model for most students, that's for sure. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. An opportunity for 30-second rebuttal. Mr. Sievertson, we're going to try and use that mic. So Mr. Sievertson is now on Mr. Mattson's mic. We'll ask you the question, sir. Is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Yeah, I think everyone learns differently, so it's not a cookie cutter way to say what is best. I would say that in-person is definitely probably more beneficial for the elementary, but I think that online options are important because we are seeing a lot of like high school students, college students that are doing online, and it's working really well for them. And some students did do well online. I do think our district, you know, it was a COVID situation, and then it was, are we doing online, are we not? So it almost felt rushed. And I feel like if we had some time to look at the online options, maybe it would be better to actually find a system that works. There are other schools, I know even metropolitan schools, that have online learning that people can enroll here. So it would be nice not to lose those students. Again, I don't know the per pupil, dollar cost, if it is affecting the dollars, taking dollars away from other kids, that definitely isn't a good thing. But if we can make it a quality online program, it probably would be beneficial for few that do need it. I do think that the in-person is definitely what we're used to, but the future is possibly moving to more online. So I think just being ahead of that and having that option, if we can do it responsibly, fiscally responsibly, and get it so the students are really, really learning. And we have great teachers that I'd like to use in an online program as well. That would be a goal, I would think, so that we can use some of our resources that we have to use that online. But I guess that answers the question in two different ways.
30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Mr. Walseth. Is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? Mr. Walseth, you have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I think learning's evolved. It's changed a lot, and I actually think that online learning is here to stay. During COVID, we just learned so much about how things work. I have a daughter at Lincoln High School and a daughter at Franklin Middle School. Good students, but online learning was not for them. They just, it wasn't working, it wasn't effective. So I learned that about them, but then there were other kids that really thrived. So it would be, in a perfect world, we would offer that option for some students. It's also very challenging to find more staff. Staff's hard to find in education right now, period, not just bus drivers. So we take additional staff to run this school. As a board, we spent a lot of time agonizing over this. Finance committee and as a board itself, if we do it, we have to do it well. We can't just do a mediocre job of it. We really have to do a good job. There are companies out there that focus on online learning, and that's all they do, and they do a really good job of it, so we have to be competitive with that. So, as a matter of fact, I voted for a 3-year pilot program to try online learning in our district and see how it went. At that point, we'd make a decision whether to keep going or not. So it ultimately failed the board vote, but I thought it was something worth looking at. So thank you.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Ms. Westerman. Is in-person the best learning model, or should more online options be offered? You have 2 minutes. Your time starts now.
I really believe it's in, is this on? Okay, there we go. I really believe that it should be an individual experience for each student. As Kayla had mentioned previously, there were some kids who really thrived being at home and working remotely, and some kids who really struggled. I had a son, kind of like Ryan, who really struggled doing online work, but I had a daughter who really thrived doing it. So I think it really just depends on the student themselves. There's a lot of people that have said that their kids, or I shouldn't say a lot, but a few have said, my child just thrived better at home than in the school. So I really think it just depends on the child. I would say, as most everybody up here has said, getting that day-to-day contact with a bus driver, a teacher, a para, whatever it may be, is extremely important for the child themselves. And I think that is a crucial way to start their day. You think of children in our community that don't have a good upbringing or good families, and that is a way for them to get out and see those happy faces, and that's important for them. I also think that if it was within our budget, that we should do an online program, because that is a different way for us to get students in our district. That is one of the ways that schools get their funding, is per pupil unit. But again, as Ryan had said, we need to do it well. We can't do it just off the cuff. We need to have it structured and planned out and effective for the students that are learning.
And 30-second rebuttal. Okay, thank you. We will be taking a short commercial break to thank and acknowledge tonight's sponsors. We'll be back with 2 final questions for our school board members right after this. And thank you for joining us tonight from the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls and before a live audience as we continue the great candidate debate with 2 more questions in the race for Thief River Falls School Board. So our question now will go to start with, it will be Kayla Leon. And the question, in preparing for tonight's debate, we took several questions on air, including one concerned over monitoring school curriculum. They were quite specific, including CRT and promoting LGBTQ lifestyle. In talking with Interim Superintendent Dr. Paula Henry, we were told that critical race theory is not taught in the Thief River Falls schools. Dr. Henry also said, though the district promotes student character building, including empathy, collaboration, and communication, issues addressing specific lifestyle choices are a matter for school counselors and are not integrated into the school curriculum. That being said, do you think it is the job of school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
So using my own experience as an educator in schools again for the past 13 years, when we buy our curriculum, it's an extremely rigorous process. You have your whole team, whether it's your grade level or whether it is your math department or your social studies department, and then you have people coming in and showing you the different curriculum materials along with district employees. And so I find the question a little bit just interesting, that asking if I would support administrators allowing curriculum, because curriculum is set by state standards, and state standards are set by legislation, and teachers teach out of the curriculum that they are given, which is purchased throughout the school district as a whole. So it's not necessarily as micromanaged as the question is implying. So that's a little bit, that I struggle with that a little bit. As far as the CRT, I think that's a big buzzword right now. I think that a really big thing is just teaching facts. Teaching out of the curriculum, I know I taught social studies and I taught math, and both were very fact-based. You wouldn't think that they are just as fact-based as one another, but I taught them both through the curriculum and what the kids needed to know at the age-appropriate level that they were. As far as the LGBTQ question, and since I want to be mindful of time, part of what I put in the paper, if you were able to read my little bio, is a big part of helping kids grow up in your community is helping them understand that they are free to live their choices and show their pride in whatever way works for them.
Thank you. 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. The question will move to Mr. Mattson, and I'll repeat the question. Do you think it is the job of school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I think it's, is this mic working now? Okay. Thank you. I think it is the school board's job to kind of oversee things, but it's not their job to micromanage. Like Mrs. Lean said, the curriculum is dictated by the state of Minnesota, by and large, and the students, the teachers have to go by that. It's also the job of the day-to-day manager or the superintendent to kind of keep track of things that are going on in the school, including curriculum. I think the question is a little more detailed than what most school boards normally have to deal with. In this day and age, we make a mountain out of a molehill on some of these small issues, and it's a difficult situation, and I think the school board does have to be aware of it and have to deal with it. But I think it's more up to the administration of the schools to handle that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And the question will move to Mr. Sievertson. Do you think it is the job of school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Thank you. Well, I think monitoring administrators and staff is not the right way.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm going to start your time over again. Go ahead and lean into the mic if you would. And,
One of these times I'll get it right.
okay. Your time start, I still not am getting a
Okay.
sound off that mic.
Hello? Anybody?
Okay, your time, 2 minutes, starting now.
I think the monitoring administration and teachers is not really what I would like to see that the school board does. I think the school board gets the curriculum from the state, which we've heard now, and I think that's really accurate. They get it from the state, we look at it, and the teachers teach it, and we want the teachers to be able to teach. We want them to be able to have conversations that come up in the classroom. I think what we don't want to do is ever really take those conversations away from the teachers from happening, because that's really learning experiences is conversations, and I think it's really important for acceptance as well. I think that is something that can be taught. You can teach that you don't agree with everyone, but you can accept them for who they are and what they choose. So I think that it is difficult to kind of state that we would monitor in that situation, because I don't think that is what we would do. But we would want to make sure that the teachers can teach. That's their job. They're the experts on it. They're the ones that kind of see the kids and can have those conversations. So.
An opportunity for 30-second rebuttal, and the question moves to Mr. Walseth. Do you think it is the job of school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? Your time, 2 minutes, starts now.
Sure. The role of the school board is very interesting. I think when I first was elected, I had some learning to do about what that role was. We trust our staff, we trust our administrators, we trust our curriculum director, we trust our superintendent to do a great job. And if any of them aren't doing the job, well, then it's the school board's job to come in and maybe make changes to things like that. So I really prefer to trust them to do their job. We set policy, we mind the budget, but we don't manage the day-to-day operations of the school. The superintendent kind of sees everything, and if there are concerns, it's the superintendent's job to bring them to the board. And as board members, of course, we're always here to listen to the public, to the staff, to whatever it might be. So I like to call it leadership through listening is kind of how we handle things. So, thanks.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Ms. Westerman. Do you think it is the job of school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I'm going to agree with everybody up here and their responses as far as letting teachers teach. And as Ryan had alluded to, we do have a curriculum director who goes through and determines selects some curriculum that they think is going to be good for our district. Then there is also a curriculum committee that meets that makes decisions on which curriculum to go with. And that doesn't only include school district representatives, it also includes community representatives. So there's other stakeholders that get to be a part of that decision-making process. So it's not just the school board makes the decision. We actually, there are people on the school board that are a part of that committee, but not all of us make that decision about curriculum. So it comes from the state, it goes through our curriculum director, and then it goes to the curriculum committee, and then it gets approved through them, and then gets taught to the teachers, or they get to review the information and materials, and then it gets sent to our students.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Mr. Spears. Do you think it is the job of the school board members to monitor school administrators and staff when it comes to curriculum some might deem inappropriate? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Okay. Over the years that I've been on the board, I think there's only been 2 instances that curriculum issues have been brought to the board. We do have the committee that's made up of teachers, parents, board members, community members, and administration that kind of oversees the curriculum, but it does come back to the teachers as a group. Each section of our district, math, social studies, they all have a committee of teachers that work very hard to look at new curriculums when it's time to switch in and pick something that's appropriate for our students. So I think it's not the job of the board to do that unless it is an issue that comes up outside of but it needs to follow the steps through the teachers, through the administration, through the superintendent before it gets to the board to look at. So most of the time, we don't have any issues there. Our teachers are very good at finding curriculum that's good for our students and curriculum that follows from Challenger to Franklin to Lincoln. So the mapping is good there. So there's no holes in the transition between the schools. So.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And, oh, absolutely. You have 30 seconds, Ryan, and that starts now.
Maybe we won't call it rebuttal. I just want to clarify, because I don't think any of us said it, but critical race theory is not taught.
Okay, we're going to stop you for just a second, and our technical crew will catch up with your mic.
That's 1, 2.
You have 30 seconds, and your time starts now.
Sure. I just want to make a comment because I don't think any of us directly said it, but critical race theory is absolutely not taught in Thief River Falls schools. It's not. So I want to put that to rest. It's not taught at the high school level in most of the state. I don't know if there's a handful of colleges that teach it, but it's just not a concern. I wanted to be clear about that. So.
And that 30-second rebuttal moves to Ms. Westerman.
I would also like to add to that the state of Minnesota in January has legislation that has gone through to try to pass that they can ban the critical race teachings in our state. 25 states in our country actually have some type of legislation against practicing the critical race theory. So just to clarify that and add on to that.
Any other rebuttal? Our final question of the evening then will move starting with Mr. Mattson. Mr. Mattson, currently many children inside the Thief River Falls city limits depend on a school bus to get them to and from school. How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule, the transportation option of last resort, that would leave most students in the city of Thief River Falls without school bus transportation? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
We've been fighting this for the issue of finding enough school bus drivers for many years now, and the school board's in the best position to know the most information on that. Obviously, probably raising the pay a little bit more might help somewhat, but I don't think that's the main issue. You can't have buses going everywhere if you don't have bus drivers to drive them. So, answering that question is very difficult if you don't have the bus drivers to drive the buses to pick up the kids within the 2 miles. So, there again, if you aren't on the school board, which I'm not, and the other 2 candidates aren't, we aren't privy to know all the information as to how they arrived at the 2-mile limit and just exactly how short the bus routes are that they currently have. So that puts a person like myself in a difficult position to answer that question. So obviously, if you don't have the bus drivers, you can't have the bus routes. So I think the school board on that issue has probably done the best they can. I mean, I'll give them that, So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. 30-second rebuttal. Mr. Sievertson? How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Well, if I said I had an answer for this, I'd be lying, because I don't. It's a really tough question that I don't think there's a perfect answer to. What I would like to do is look at all solutions, because we do need to make sure that kids have a safe route to and from school. I mean, that's a really important part of public education. However, it doesn't sound like it's a financial issue. I've talked to school board, it's not a financial issue, it's a people issue. We need people that are willing to drive bus, and that's something that's gonna be difficult to come by, because, we don't appreciate our bus drivers enough. Mr. Spears, thank you. We don't appreciate our bus drivers enough, and it's really, really hard to find them, keep them. And I think that we probably are gonna need to find creative solutions, because we definitely don't want kids walking, 2 miles is a long way as the crow flies in Thief River. But I do think that is only a high school, middle school, or something like that. I think what they proposed, I guess I'm not sure on that, but I think that the elementary would still be bused, for the most part. But I do think that is an issue, and that's gonna be a big issue facing the school board coming this year. And I do hope we can find a solution for it, because I don't want that to happen. But I wish there was an easy solution to that, but that is gonna be a difficult one, and I hope we look at all options to find that.
Thank you. 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. And the question moves on to Mr. Walsad. How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Okay, so I'm actually fortunate to be in the position where we probably talked about this for an hour at one of our meetings this week for Transportation Committee specifically, and I want to just let you know that it's exactly what it is. It's a last resort. It's not something we want to do, not something we're looking to do or happy to do, but if it happens, it's because we've exhausted all other options. We talked about, opting out. Some people that maybe don't need bus service could opt out, simplify our routes a little bit. We've talked about recruiting, we've talked about incentives, we've talked about pay raises, all the different things we can think of, but we're open to advice. If you go to my small business, there's a poster hanging in my window saying, Thief River Falls Schools needs you for bus drivers, and we're really, the whole community's been behind this effort. So, and like John mentioned, it's not a financial issue. We have the money to pay bus drivers, we just don't have the bus drivers to drive the buses. A couple years ago, I was lucky to do a ride-along with one of our drivers, and it was fascinating to see the kids get on the bus, and this goes to the fact that we don't appreciate them enough, but the drivers personally know the kids. They say hello to them. If the child may have a tough home life, that's that smile in the morning means an awful lot to them, and it's the start of a good day. And then the last thing they do before they get off the bus is say goodbye to the kid on the bus. So the drivers set the pace for the kids' entire day, and we really do appreciate them. So.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves to Ms. Westerman. How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I am on the Transportation Committee with Ryan, and I have been on it for 4 years. And we have started off with Ronnie Scallett is a wonderful transportation director. He keeps us up to date on how many drivers we have, which routes they're going to cover, if they're covering AM or PM routes, which not all of our bus drivers drive both routes because they can't. Most of them have other jobs. If you look at the average age of our bus drivers, they're past retirement age. So we've tried to make it more enticing for people who want to have that as a full-time job by offering other employment opportunities throughout the district. So that would fit into more of a consistent workday versus starting and stopping. We have actually are looking into increasing the pay plus sign-on bonuses. We've done sign-on bonuses in the past. But unfortunately, this is not just a district issue, this is a national issue. This past year, we went over how many charters we've used, and it's way more than we've ever used in the years previous, in which or maybe you don't know, that charters are very expensive to run. So we would rather have our own personal bus drivers that we are able to use from our community that are able to transport our children. So hopefully we can use every effort possible, and if anybody has any suggestions or knows anybody who's interested in being a bus driver, we are more than happy to speak with you. Another thing that we recently did was paid training for bus drivers. So if you're worried about the expense and what that's going to take, we have the training that is available and the financial aspect to help you get your CDL. 30-second rebuttal. And the question moves on to Mr. Spears.
How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I think everybody's touched on the basic points there. There's just not that many people out there that it fits into their schedule as there used to be for this. Some of the other items are fears of discipline issues and stuff, and for the most part, most of the students are good. They behave. Sometimes you have to tell them to sit down many times, but behavior is not as big an issue as a lot of people think. Some of the other roadblocks, licensing, training requirements that the federal government put into effect in February of this year didn't help our cause any. Instead of making things easier for people to get their license, they made it harder. Our district has taken steps through the service co-op to try and help get training done. District will help pick up costs for that. Background checks is another issue that takes the amount of time to get done. That's necessary evil of today's society too. So there's just a lot of issues there that make it hard to get drivers. And unfortunately, if we don't have enough drivers, we're not able to haul all the kids. And the parents have stepped up this year. Last summer, transportation sent out a lot of letters, and a lot of parents of children outside the city limits and inside the city limits haul their kids to school, which helps keep the crowding on our buses down too. So.
Thank you. 30-second response, rebuttal, and the question moves on to Ms. Lynn. How can the school board avoid imposing the 2-mile rule? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Gonna be a little bit of a broken record here, but the biggest issue I would say is just the lack of drivers. I know from being a coach in the district, I received my van license so that I could drive kids to away basketball games or away track meets. I know my husband was lucky enough to get in before all the requirements had changed in February, and so he got his bus license through the district, and they were able to help him with the training on that. Unfortunately, he's a teacher and has to teach first hour and last hour, so he can't do the morning or the afternoon route, but it helps with sports anyway. So he coaches football, and he's able to take his team to the football game, because if you don't have a driver, you can't go to these events, or you expect families to do that. And not every family can take their child to East Side on a Tuesday night. So then it definitely becomes the haves and the have-nots and the division with that. So I think the biggest thing is just trying to figure out how do we get more drivers in the district. So I'm going to do the little plug like everybody else up here has. If you know anybody that would like to apply to be a driver in the district or is able to, we would greatly appreciate it. The opposing the 2-mile rule, nobody wants to put that 2 mile, like John has said. That's a big area to expect some of these little ones to walk. However, just kind of, again, getting creative and being able to maybe have hubs. So here's a pickup spot, and if you can get your kid to this spot within this area, instead of just opposing, nope, you're within 2 miles, you can't drive. So maybe coming up with other creative ideas. Maybe having staggered starts at the schools so that the buses aren't trying to drive all the 3 schools at the same time, and kind of stagger that out. Just different options to look at. And again, I'm not on the school board, I'm not on the committees, so maybe these are options that they've already discussed and I'm happy to learn more about. But definitely coming up with other alternatives, because nobody wants to see 2 miles is a long way.
30-second rebuttal. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Spears. You have 30 seconds. Just give us a second, and your time starts now.
I'd just like to invite anybody that's even thinking about maybe getting their bus license to come to the bus garage 6:45 in the morning or 2:30 in the afternoon and get on a school bus and ride with us and have a look at what it's all about.
We will be asking our legislative candidates coming up about credentializing, since that's an issue that's been raised here this evening. Thank you all very much to all of our school board candidates, and good luck November 8th. We will be back with the race for Minnesota Legislature in District 1A right after this.
Hello, check, check. Just a gentle reminder to all of our candidates, please speak directly into the microphone. Make sure you pull the microphone nice and close to you, otherwise we get a lot of feedback. So, again, just a gentle request, please pull those microphones nice and close, talk right into the microphone, and that's going to keep us from getting some feedback. Thank you.
The great candidate debate live from the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls with the race for Minnesota House in District 1A, incumbent Republican John Burkle and his Democratic challenger John Seville. Gentlemen, we'll start with introductions, beginning with the incumbent Representative John Burkle. You have 2 minutes, sir, for your introduction. And just one moment while we get, and your time starts, yes, check your mic. And your time starts now.
All right, you hear me okay? I can hear myself. Well, thanks to the TRF Chamber, and thanks for TRF Radio put this on. As a lifelong resident here in Northwest Minnesota, married for 34 years and father of 5, I've brought the lived experience of our region to St. Paul these last 2 years as your state representative, and I feel I've voiced our rural concerns as a member of the Ag Committee, Human Services and Industrial Education and Economic Development Committees. And I've prioritized those special concerns and the unique needs of our rural area, our rural values and of our families and farmers and manufacturers and Main Street businesses. And it's what makes us a great place to live. But those special concerns include tax relief for families struggling to pay the bills right now with inflation not seen in their lifetimes. Not California car mandates and emission standards imposed on us through MPCA rulemaking. Those unique needs include fair funding for our nursing homes and rural schools, our teachers, our students, not bloated budgets for bureaucrats at the Minnesota Department of Ed and Department of Human Services, fostering fraud, corruption, and the lack of transparency. Those rural values include respecting our friends and neighbors, supporting our law enforcement, and holding criminals accountable, not demoralizing those who protect and serve, creating a revolving door, catch and release crime wave in Minnesota. I'm running for re-election because I believe in focusing on the basics. We need to reduce the cost of living by attacking wasteful spending, which fuels inflation, and we need to end the tax on senior Social Security. We need to support our law enforcement and our first responders. We need to defend our farmers and our Main Street business owners from regulatory overreach, and we need to get parents and teachers working together to ensure academic excellence. Hard work and focusing on basics is what I'm about, and I'll continue to take that attitude to St. Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the Democratic challenger, James Seville. Mr. Seville, I'm so sorry about mispronouncing your first name earlier. James Seville, you have 2 minutes for your introduction, sir, and your time starts now.
So my name is James Seville. I am also running for Minnesota House 1A. I am a common man. I work a 9 to 5 in healthcare. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I do not have any special interests behind me. I'm not a chairman of any big boards. I don't own any multi-million-dollar companies. I'm running this grassroots the entire way. I'm working the parades. I'm going door to door. I'm doing the best I can. I am a common man working for the other common people. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to have their voice heard as it should be down in St. Paul. Common people have lost their voice in the capital. Everyone down there seems to be behind big budgets. They have special interests that control them. They have something that is what they're going to be down there voting for, not the people. I have 4 main points I have to go for me. I want to make sure that we're defending our democracy. Everyone's vote needs to be counted. We should have mail-in voting, early voting as the standard throughout Minnesota to make sure everyone has a chance to get their vote. Education reform. Kids need to make sure they don't have other options besides just 4-year colleges for continuing education. We need to push our trade schools. We need to push things like CNA programs, affordable housing. Up here in rural Minnesota, we're in a housing crunch. It is tough to get people to move up here because they simply have nowhere else to live. Legalized cannabis is an issue that I just want to be done with. We've been pushing for years and years, and it just keeps getting stalled out while other states are getting that tax revenue. I mean, it's no longer a left or right issue. You have California and Oklahoma on the same page on this. I think we're just kind of done with this. So we're going to deal with it. Minnesota, James Seville, Minnesota House 1A.
Thank you. Thank you for the applause. I love that. Thank you. Okay. So our first question goes to James Seville. You drew the short straw tonight. And so the question, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce supports legislation that would accelerate private sector workforce efforts to attract and retain skilled workers, including an effort to streamline credentializing. Tell us what action the state legislature needs to take to assure Minnesota employers have the workers they need to stay in business and continue to grow Minnesota. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
So I think the biggest issue a lot of our employers have up here, again, is housing. We just don't simply have a spot for them. I think we can do a lot for our local employers, starting people in trade programs so they might not have to go to a traditional school. Employers can hire on people, teach them what they need as they go, get them licensed as an apprentice. Similar to the old union programs, you start as an apprentice, get your way up. If the employers can have on-the-job training to get their people what they need, that is great for them. We have so much high-tech manufacturing in the area. I mean, we have Articat, we have Polaris, we have Airco. These people need skilled individuals, and it's very tough for them to actually find the people that already have the training. Getting people licensed for different things, there's sometimes that some of the licensing can get pretty iffy. Minnesota does have a really good program for like CNAs though, where you can get on-the-job experience and then take your tests instead of going to school. So I think a lot of our workers would benefit greatly from on-the-job training into actual licensing. I think that'd be a great program to really expand on in the area that would help out businesses quite a bit.
Thank you. And now the same question to Representative John Burkle. What action does the state legislature need to take to assure Minnesota employers have the workers they need? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Thank you for that. I'll agree with my opponent. You know, housing is a problem up here. But beyond that, on the Industrial Ed Committee that I serve on, we looked really hard at a pilot program happening in Winona State. I'd like to see move forward in other areas of the state and other regions. The workforce issue is a real problem. Every business I visit in the district is struggling for workers. On the Industrial Ed Committee, we've talked long and hard about what that would look like, how this $200,000 pilot program could be expanded statewide to really get folks, you know, workforce ready with the skill set to be employable right out of high school, and that's the goal of that program. I was just able to tour the Northland Community and Tech College here in town last week at their open house. It's amazing what they have going on in town here. And the flexibility in scheduling, you can take up to a third of the credit and move forward on your education to get licensed. I think there's just a lot of opportunities. Up in Laurel last week as well, the new mechatronics program up there that in partnership with Marvin and the folks at the Laurel Community Development that have set that program in place. There's just a lot of good programs locally we can do on the ground, boots on the ground, that'll get our workers ready here to enter the workforce right out of high school. And it's really where we need to go. I think I'd like to see this next session, maybe on industrial ed on that committee, move forward as that pilot program progresses and see it expand statewide.
Thank you. Mr. Seville, you have a 30-second option for rebuttal.
John, what was the name of that program, that pilot program? Do you have the name for that? No, the one down south.
Oh, I don't remember the exact name. It's Winona State.
Winona State.
Just a point of clarification then? Okay, let's move on to our second question. And we start with Mr. Seville. As a state lawmaker, what would you do to either protect or overturn Doe versus Gomez, the 1995 state Supreme Court decision that guarantees women have access to legal abortion in Minnesota? You have 2 minutes to answer the question, and your time starts now.
As far as I'm concerned, women's rights are non-negotiable for me. We already had 3 Supreme Court justices say that Roe versus Wade was settled law. They ended up lying, and now we've had that overturned. It is enshrined in the Constitution of Minnesota, but as we found out, that is not a thing that actually matters if you get enough people to find a way to overturn that. I would love to have a majority in the House, the Senate, the governorship to continue protecting that program. As we found out, you throw enough lawsuits at something, eventually something can stick. The only way we can protect women's rights in this state is to have a Democratic majority.
Thank you. And the same question to Representative Burkle. As a state lawmaker, what would you do to either protect or overturn Doe versus Gomez, the 1995 state Supreme Court decision that guarantees women have access to legal abortion in Minnesota? You have 2 minutes to make your response, and your time starts now.
So this whole abortion debate is really a really deeply personal issue for people on both sides. No matter who's governor or who's in the legislature right now, access to abortion is a constitutionally protected right in Minnesota because of Doe versus Gomez. However, the abortion debate really isn't about those things at all in my mind. It's really a debate about, at its basic level, it's really a human rights debate. It's a debate about the inclusive view of all human life. And really what we have here is this exclusive view that says some are expendable. And I would push for a constitutional, put a ballot initiative together to look at changing the Constitution to reverse that decision and move forward with the protection of all innocent human life from birth, from conception to natural death.
And we have a 30-second period for rebuttal. Mr. Seville.
This is just clarification. Does Minnesota have ballot initiatives? We do? Okay.
Yes, we do.
We do, okay.
30-second rebuttal?
No.
No? Okay. We'll move on to the next question then. According to Advanced Thief River Falls, as of April 2022, there were 715 children in need of daycare in Thief River Falls and only 498 child care spots available. Across Northwest Minnesota, we have a 3,000 child gap between need and availability, contributing to a workforce shortage and challenging economic development. What is the state doing, and what more can they do to address the need for child care? The question goes to Mr. Seville to start, and your time, no, it goes to Mr. Burkle to start. My apologies, sir, and your time starts now.
Thank you. So what we have really is, we have child care centers at risk. With all the staffing challenges we have this day, and we heard that with the busing situation in our school board debate. But really the challenges of these staffing challenges are causing parents having to stop work to take care of their kids. And it's really a domino effect. We have a workforce shortage issue from the prior question in childcare, which exacerbates the workforce issue in other industries, and it just kind of spiraled downward. We need direct and indirect giving in both family child care centers and child care centers in general, through loans and grants covering expenses directly. The child care stabilization grants during COVID helped, but we're losing those now. I think we have to be creative. These child care pods are something that we're showing some interest in. These pods would allow our rural providers to stay small, but get kind of the business out of their house. Really educating our community on the importance of child care. It's important to have community support. And in Warren, I carried the local option sales tax bill, along with Senator Mark Johnson, to allow them to build and finance a Warren daycare center, a facility right in town. And I would think, too, that employers are participating in the solution as we go on forward. I know Marvin is looking at a daycare center in Warroad. They maybe can't solve the problem alone, but they can be powerful allies in the community. So it's going to take community coalitions. These projects need champions, but coalitions are crucial for building these relationships.
Thank you. And the same question then to Mr. Seville. What is the state doing? What more can they do to address childcare needs? You have 2 minutes, sir, and your time starts now.
So yes, childcare is very hard. I just ended up taking my kids out of daycare last year. They finally got old enough where we didn't quite need it anymore. There are certain programs out there that do help. The Parent Aware program is an amazing little thing that does help provide grants for people who qualify. But you also have to have a daycare provider that qualifies for those grants. So it does require high quality daycare providers. Making sure we get enough of those is tough because you have to make sure that they are licensed. They have to meet a certain qualification on there. I think having some state aid and grants to get more people up to that specification to make certain programs like that viable would be great. Having community-based daycare like what Warren's trying to do is a great idea. Mr. Burkle also mentioned that Marvin's was trying to get some employee-based childcare. That's a start. I know a lot of employers are terrified of that because of insurance costs. There is no great answer on this. It really is going to come down to finding a way to make licensing affordable for people, to get a good system in place from the state to support people who want to have daycares. Having more daycare centers might be nice. We have a great one here in Thief River. But it is hard to find people to staff it. I mean, I see in the paper all the time they're looking for people. I think we're just going to have to combine a lot of things with education funding possibly and have expanded early childhood education to get some of those kids maybe in the schools more, which also is a staffing issue to have more teachers in early childhood education. There's no silver bullet to all of this. A lot of it comes down to proper funding for these programs.
Mr. Burkle, you do have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Sorry, am I on? Okay.
And your time starts. Let's work with that. And your time starts now.
I wouldn't necessarily have a rebuttal. I would just state again that in rural areas, family child care centers or family child care, in-home child care has really been the model these years, and regulation, over-regulation, and problems with licensing is really rampant in rural areas. Daycare centers are tough up here. Distance, we got distance issues, travel issues, so that's the only other comment I'd make.
And Mr. Seville, you do have another final comment, 30 seconds, and your time starts now.
Well, I will also agree with that. A lot of our rural issues are tough. They're not be able to be done by city issues. I mean, we have large expanses between people where they got to go. We can't just bring people down the road to childcare facilities all the time. So, no, Mr. Burkle here is right. Our issues do not always have the same issues that the cities do.
Thank you, candidates, for House 1A, and good luck on Election Day, November 8th. We really cannot thank you both enough for being with us today. We'll be back in just a moment as the great candidate debate continues with the race for Pennington County Sheriff. The Great Candidate Debate continues live from the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls with the race for Pennington County Sheriff and our candidates Seth Vettleson and David Olson. Both candidates are with us this evening, and we will start with introductions. Mr. Olson, you drew the short straw, so you start with the introductions. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
All right, I'd like to first start off by saying thank you to Thief River Radio, to the Chamber, and the Eagles for hosting this event here tonight, and then also to all the community members that are tuning in that are here. Ultimately, you're here to see who your candidates are, so thank you for coming out tonight. Who am I? My name is David Olson. I'm seeking your support to be elected the next sheriff of Pennington County. What makes me the best candidate to represent you, the people of Pennington County, as your next sheriff? I'm a lifelong resident in Pennington County. I was born and raised west of Thief River. Currently live west of Thief River with my wife and 4 kids. Graduated from Lincoln High School in 2001. My senior year of high school, I enlisted in the Minnesota Army National Guard. So I went on to serve 12 years as an infantry soldier. I deployed to Bosnia and I deployed to Iraq. During that time, I attended numerous leadership courses sponsored by the United States military, to include advanced leadership course at the Non-Commissioned Officers Academy in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. I was honorably discharged at the rank of Staff Sergeant. To continue my career, I joined the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, where I've been a deputy sheriff for the past 11 years. During my time at the Sheriff's Office, I've held numerous roles to include field training officer, firearms instructor, taser instructor. I've been a project manager for a few major projects that we had, to include the Armor radio system back in 2014, which is an interoperability system that allows all public safety to communicate together. Along with that, our records management and CAD system, I was project manager and currently system administrator for that as well. With that, what makes a good leadership within a sheriff's office? Open communication. I think any leadership starts with communication, and I think that is very important with the sheriff's office. So I can bring that with my years of experience and training through the military and law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. And now our introduction moves to Seth Vettleson. Seth, you have 2 minutes to make your response, and your time starts now.
Thank you. And again, thank you to TRF Radio and the Chamber and all the people that are here to watch us and see who the best candidate is. I'm Seth Vettleson. I graduated from Goodridge in '99. Shortly after that, I joined the Marines. I did 2 tours enduring freedom in the Philippines. After 4 years, I was honorably discharged at the rank of sergeant. Came home to Pennington County. Pursued my law enforcement career, graduated from Northland. I started with the Thief Falls Police Department in 2007. In 2015, Ray Kuznia, the current sheriff, recruited me to become the member of the Sheriff's Department. And in 2018, I became the chief deputy. Now, as chief deputy, I've learned some crucial roles to becoming the sheriff. They are employee hire and discipline, budget, the correctional facility, dispatch, STS, investigation, vendors contract, training, inspections, policies, watch St. Paul and the post board for what they try and pull and sneak under the rug for us, and internal investigations. I am the only candidate that has these qualifications and to lead the county into the future through this ever-changing time. Thank you.
Our introductions, thank you. Mr. Olson, will you please pull that mic just a little closer to you? Thank you. And remember to lean into it as you respond to our first question. Although opioid deaths have decreased in Pennington County, non-fatal overdoses treated at Sanford ER last year were the highest since 2016. As sheriff, how would you address the drug problem in Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and the time starts now.
With the current drug problem in Pennington County, this has been an issue that every sheriff has faced. There's always been a drug problem within the communities. What can we do about it? We have representation on a drug task force. We have our officers out there on a day-to-day basis combating the drugs and the opioid crisis that we're having. What are we seeing as some of the problems? The opiates are being shipped in from other countries, so ultimately they're coming across our federal borders. Until the federal government does something to stop some of the opioids from coming across the borders, all we can do is combat it here, which we do on a day-to-day basis. We're catching people day-to-day. As fast as we catch them, there's somebody to take their place. And then on that, as was mentioned earlier by our House 1A representative, that it's a catch and release program. So what are the consequences for these people that are being caught? They're just being released back to the street. So we're dealing with the same people over and over again. We need to continue to combat it as we are, but until we have more support from our federal and state government, we are just going to continue to see.
Thank you. And that question then moves to Mr. Vettleson. How would you address the drug problem in Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I agree with Mr. Olson on many of those comments about the drugs are coming in here. However, we have to look at ways outside of the normal, blame it on somebody else. Myself and Chief Adam, the Chief of Police, are working on a re-entry program right now. In Crow Wing County, they've seen a 20% reduction in recidivism in treatment facilities, reduction in contacts with law enforcement. We are modeling this policy after that. We bring in a social worker into the jail who meets with the inmate first time arrested or the first time they're arrested on that stint, and they meet with them and they come up with a plan. And they try and work this plan through the courts and with the attorneys, and they monitor that individual kind of like a probation, but it's with social services. And it also falls under the medical, so the courts do not have access to what they admit to what they talk about. It is completely separate, and it is very successful in these other places. And also with that, if we get that successful rate of the 20% reduction, we can open up those beds for further outside housing and thus help our budget even further in the future. Those are things I am doing, not what I'm talking about doing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. You have, Mr. Olson, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
I would agree with Mr. Vettleson here that we do need the programs within the community. But again, until there's consequences for what the actions that these people are doing, what is the outcome? We need more consequences for these people that are committing these crimes and bringing the drugs into our community.
And a final response, Mr. Vettleson.
We're going to give this reentry program a try, and we're hoping to expect 20% reduction. So I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Our second question moves to Mr. Vettleson to start. Under Minnesota law, individuals must obtain a permit to carry a handgun in public, and the permit to carry application must be processed and approved by the local sheriff's department. Would you like to see any changes to current Minnesota uniform firearm law when it comes to permit to carry? And are you favorable or opposed to the public obtaining a permit to carry?
As long as the individual is a law-abiding citizen, I'm 100% in favor of them carrying a firearm if they're trained and willing to do that on their own. Also, the one thing unique about Pennington County and the permit to carry system is we send out notices when they're getting close to expiring, and I plan to continue to do that. We're one of the few counties that do that. Training, like right now, an individual seeking a permit to carry must go through a training that's every 5 years. I agree with that. A background check to ensure that they are legally allowed to carry a firearm. I'm in support of that. And if you look at studies across the country, areas where more individuals carry firearms, there is a reduction rate of firearm crime. So I'm 100% in favor of that. Thank you.
The same question then to Mr. Olson. Any changes to current Minnesota law when it comes to permit to carry, and are you in favor or opposed to the public obtaining a permit to carry? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I would echo what Mr. Vettleson said as far as the right to carry a firearm. It's a constitutionally protected right that we have to bear arms. As long as people pass the requirements that are set in standard right now that Minnesota has, I believe they should have that right to carry the firearm.
And Mr. Vettleson, you have a 30-second response. And here we go.
I think we both agree 100% on this one.
Mr. Olson, any further comment? Very good. We'll move on to our third question of the evening then, and we'll start with Mr. Olson. According to the County Sheriff's Department internet homepage, the Sheriff's Office, quote, is here to enforce laws, provide public safety services, and build community partnerships. Code Red is maintained through the Sheriff's Department along with the county jail. Given all that responsibility, what is the greatest challenge when it comes to budgeting and staffing? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
So ultimately, I think when it comes to budgeting and staffing as far as the sheriff's office, it is a large office within Pennington County. The budget itself is set year to year, and I think we need to be cautious with our spending. Ultimately, we need to make sure we're not spending stuff where we shouldn't. We need to ensure that we're frugal with our spending. Let's be cautious with it. Let's not rely on outside sources to fund our budget, such as other jails that will be bringing in inmates to house there. It is a way to supplement our budget, but saying that we have a 0% increase on our budget due to outside sources, I don't believe with that completely. We still have increased needs and increased costs. As far as when it comes to staffing, as we've heard throughout the night, it's an issue everywhere. When it comes to bus drivers, when it comes to staffing within our jail, within our sheriff's office as a whole, we need to find qualified candidates. And how do we do that? We need to continue the outreach to our local community colleges where these option for the employees are coming from. We also need to look and make sure we're being competitive with wages to ensure that we're getting good qualified staff and can retain them.
And the same question to Mr. Battleson. What is the greatest challenge when it comes to budgeting and staffing? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
When it comes to budgeting, we are looking very good on our budget right now. When it comes to outside housing, we sign contracts with these other entities like Lake of the Woods County. So they house their inmates over 48 hours to get housed with us, and they pay us for those beds. That's so they aren't required to build a jail. That is something that will be here. Every county will have to deal with inmates. Staffing, we are one of the few jails around here that are staffed quite well. Currently we are 2 part-time correctional officers short. We're looking to fill those positions here. And that is how we are able to house, right now we're housing for Beltrami County, Clearwater County, Lake of the Woods County, females from Marshall County, Polk County on occasion. Those are things that we do, and that's what we're able to do because we treat our correctional staff as career employees. We don't treat them as just jailers. That is one thing that we're able to do, and I'm proud to say that they are my coworkers. Thank you.
And Mr. Olson, you have 30-second rebuttal.
No comments.
Okay, and a final comment, Mr. Battleson. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, David Olson and Seth Battleson, candidates for Pennington County Sheriff. And good luck on Election Day. Love that handshake, thank you. The candidates for the Pennington County Board of Commissioners after this. The debate continues live from the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls as we turn to candidates for the Pennington County Board of Commissioners. We have one of the candidates from District 2 with us this evening. That is the certified write-in candidate, Julie Bolduc. Julie, I am going to ask you to explain what a certified write-in candidate is.
I didn't end up writing or going and signing or getting signed in to get put on the ballot right away. So the certified write-in is just, people have to write my name in.
So your name will not be on the ballot,
Right, my name
but
won't
you
be-
are a certified candidate.
Yes.
So the county election officials will be looking for that name and they will be counting it.
Yes, they'll
Okay.
be looking for it, but it won't be on the ballot. You will have to actually write it in.
Okay. And also joining us, we do have District 4 incumbent Daryl Tveitbach and challenger Ray Sourduff. Sourduff? My apologies, Sourduff. Really? Okay. Ray, how do you pronounce your name? Sourduff. Okay. Welcome to the podium. We're going to start with introductions. Each of you will have 2 minutes. And with introductions, we start with our incumbent, Daryl Tveitbach. Daryl, you have 2 minutes, starting now.
First of all, it's been a real honor for me to serve as Pennington County Commissioner. I've done it for a little while now. I was elected chair of the board in 2020 in the January organizational meeting, and shortly after that, we all know we went headlong into a pandemic. So that was a challenging year. You know, later that year, we were awarded some CARES Act funds, and through the formation of a CARES Act committee, which I chaired, we were able to grant over $2 million of funds to local businesses and nonprofits that had been adversely affected by the pandemic. During my term in office, I worked on many things and serve on many committees, about a dozen committees right now between Pennington County and the Association of Minnesota Counties. What I believe one of my most important committees at the moment is I am on the Airport Authority, and I'm chairing the Airport Authority Commission now. And we're currently building a hangar, or in the process of building a hangar out at the airport. Through lobbying and a lot of efforts on the part of all the members of the Airport Authority, we have been able to procure over $13 million in grant funds to support that new hangar construction, which will start in the spring of '23. We've also been able to sign a 4-year agreement with Denver Air Connect to provide passenger service at the airport, and they're just doing a superb job with regional jet service. Budgetary challenges will never end. It's my intention to continue to use my experience as the general manager of the Northern Municipal Power Agency to work with the budget and finance piece of what we do as commissioners. My wife Deb and I would like to thank you, KTRF and the Chamber, for hosting this event and giving us all the opportunity to speak our views tonight. And I would encourage people to get out and vote on November 8th, and I hope I can have your support.
Thank you. Introductions, move on to Mr. Sourduff. And you have 2 minutes, Ray, starting now.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Roy Sourduff, and I've been employed by DigiKey since 2013. It's one of the best jobs that I've ever had. And my encouraging, gorgeous wife of 34 years is still with me today. So with that, we were married for 34 years. We have 3 boys, 3 daughter-in-laws, and 4 grandchildren. And one of the reasons why I decided to try to run and make a difference was for our children and our grandchildren. The last 2 crazy years have been a test of all kinds. And one thing that I thought we should take care of is to teach our children our rights and our grandchildren, and not only that, but how to stand up for them. So there's a few other things that decided to make me decide to run, and one of them was it seemed like the turnover on Pennington County employees was a little bit strong. So that was one thing that I'd like to make a goal of having county employees proud to serve you, the taxpayer, and to want to do their job. So, and after talking with people this summer, many people told me that they didn't feel represented. And so this is one thing that I'd like to change. And I'm going to ask for you to allow me to represent you. Thank you.
Those are our candidates in District 4, and we will now move on to District 2, where Julie Bolduc is a certified write-in candidate. Julie, you will have 2 minutes to make your introduction. Remember to lean into the mic, and your time starts now.
My name is Julie Bolduc, and I am married to Anthony Bolduc. We have been married for 20 years. We have 2 kids. We've lived here for almost 22 years. Not much has changed. We got a Walmart, and that's about it. I would love to see the community grow, and I'd love to see the taxes go down. And right now, the commissioner that's in my district is not representing us. He's not going to meetings, and he's not doing his job. They gave themselves $858 raises for next year, and I'm not really sure what for. We need to see results if they're going to be getting raises, and we need to see results if we're going to see this community grow. If we don't see that, we're not going to get anywhere. I also feel if we keep the commissioners in office that are there right now, it's not going to change. You can't treat an old dog new tricks. So, and I am very much so like Trump. I'm very rough on the edges, but I will get the job done. So if you want to see changes, write me in for District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question moves to Ray Sourdup in District 4. What currently is the most pressing concern for Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
The most pressing probably would be housing. We have plenty of jobs, and I don't think there's enough housing in there. And I really don't have the answer how you'd fix that. Because, as Julie said, we should be growing by leaps and bounds, and I'm not sure exactly how to approach that. But it is one thing that I think we definitely need to explore more of, is getting affordable housing, and probably not just apartments for kids to come up and just rent, but for families to buy homes and to plant roots and to try to make this community grow.
I am going to give all 3 of you an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. If you would like rebuttal, just raise your hand at this time. Seeing none, the question moves to Julie Bolduc. What is currently the most pressing concern for Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I would say the property taxes. If we don't lower them or keep them steady, we're not going to have anybody owning houses. The normal families can't afford the houses, and I don't know. I just feel that you got to be able to have affordable property if you want people to move in, I guess. I don't know. So I think if you keep giving raises and stuff like that, you're not gonna do it. So I don't know.
Okay, a 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. If you would like that, simply raise your hand. If not, the question moves on to Daryl Feitbach. Daryl, what is currently the most pressing concern for Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Well, there's a lot of concerns, but I think, the one that comes into my mind is taxes. We are a highly taxed county. We are a very small county in the grand scheme of things, with a very limited tax capacity, and yet we have the same mandates to provide things that larger counties with much more tax capacity have to do. So we have to do it with less. And it's always a challenge budgetary to meet all the requirements that we're supposed to meet, provide all the services that are necessary and many of them mandated, and do it within a budget that we can afford to do and that the taxpayers in the county can afford. And it's become more and more challenging every year. We have a predicted levy increase this year of, I believe it's about 4%. We hope to reduce that. I would have to say that, back of the napkin calculation, much of what didn't happen legislatively this year in this session has cost us locally in terms of levy, because the problems didn't go away, but the funding didn't arrive. And that's very troubling for me, and I hope that in the next session, the House and Senate can come to agreements and, provide adequate and fair funding for counties and cities and what have you on some of these mandated things.
There is a 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. Julie.
I do know that for our county, we are close to the property taxes of Moorhead, and we are really a lot smaller than Moorhead, and we should be having more opportunity, we should have more amenities and stuff like that in the county. And 4% is actually quite a bit when you start laying it out and looking at it on the numbers. So.
Time, thank you. And Mr. Tweibach, you get 30-second final response.
Well, on the tax side, on our recent levy that was approved, because of all the mitigating factors of a levy and how it's all arrived at, I had our auditor run my taxes for next year on my house, and the county's portion actually went down with this levy, so I felt good about that. But there are other, half dozen other entities on your tax bill, so I would encourage you to look at the entire thing when you get it, and then realize that counties have control of only one of those things.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Julie Bolduc. Julie, would you support recording and rebroadcasting county board meetings similar to the current rebroadcast of Thief River Falls City Council meetings on Shelburne's Cable Channel 13? One of the two regular monthly county board meetings is at 10 a.m., a difficult time for the public to attend in person. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Yes, I actually feel that's really important that we need to broadcast that, and I also feel that the residents need to be more involved in the meetings, and they need to be more aware of what is going on in the meetings. I think the county commissioners have took it upon themselves to go ahead and pass probably more than what they probably should be. I think a lot of stuff should be given to the residents to vote on. Kind of like the jail should have never been passed. That should have been sent to the residents to be voted on. And I think the meetings at 10 o'clock, I think that was just, honestly, I think the 10 o'clock meetings were put at that time just because people are at work. So I think it was put, it's just a little bit convenient for them to have that. So a lot of people aren't able to show up for the meetings because there is work. It would be nice to see it more in the evening so there would be more people that were able to attend.
And there is a 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. Anyone desire rebuttal? Then the question moves to Daryl Feitbach. Would you support recording and rebroadcasting city council meetings similar to the current rebroadcast of Thief River Falls City Council meetings on Schoberg's Cable Channel 13? One of the two regular county board meetings is at 10 a.m., a difficult time for the public to attend in person. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I would have no problem with broadcasting our meetings live at all, and we have the capability to do that. We haven't had any groundswell of demand to do it. So at this point, given that equipment is relatively new, we haven't pursued that at this point. But we could, and we may at some point. Meetings have always been at 10 a.m. up until 20 years ago. One of the meetings was moved to 5 p.m. for just the reason you stated, to allow more public participation. But sometimes it sort of confounds me that in general, the public doesn't participate. I wish they would. I don't mind it when the room is full and people have opinions about things. I wish they would show up, but they don't. And our meetings are not exciting. Our committees do their work. Our meetings tend to be pretty dry and pretty mundane. The materials for the meeting is all posted online on the county website ahead of the meeting, so anyone can go and have a look at it, and if they see something that is near and dear to them, they can come to the meeting, and there's a time at the beginning of the meeting that anyone can speak for a few minutes, but then they can also get on the agenda for a time certain if they have an issue on their mind. So that, the meetings are open, the meetings are not closed to anybody.
And there is an opportunity for 30-second rebuttal. If not, the question moves on to Mr. Sourdough. Would you support recording and rebroadcasting city council, county board meetings similar to the rebroadcast of Thief River Falls City Council meetings on Schoberg's Cable 13? One of the two regular monthly county board meetings is at 10 a.m., a difficult time for the public to attend. You have 2 minutes, starting now.
We're all in agreement on this. I think that would be a high transparency move to where everybody could and understand what was being put on the table and what was being discussed. So I'd be for it.
Most of these questions this evening were gathered during call-ins to Mark Allen's open line last week. So many of these questions are directly from the public, including this one. Just so you have a reference point for that. Thank you, and we are going to go ahead with a third question this evening that'll start out with Mr. Tveitbach. And this is one that was called in often on open line. They asked us to ask it to all three entities, and we managed to work a time frame for at least two. What is the state doing, and what more can they do to address the need for child care in Pennington County? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I think unfortunately the state has not done enough. I think, one of the major problems for daycare, child care is a regulatory problem. To do daycare in your home, there's a tremendous amount of regulations that you need to adhere to, and I believe that it's, in some cases, maybe unnecessary and maybe doesn't make sense. We're all about child protection for sure, so we want a daycare facility that's safe, and we want well-trained people doing that work. But I don't believe the state has done enough at this point. I think it's certainly being talked about. I believe that it's a major issue with our workforce today. We have a workforce shortage. You heard that from other panels here tonight. Part of the reason we have a workforce shortage is that parents need to stay home to take care of children, and working outside the home and paying for daycare isn't a profitable venture for them, and better for the children if they stay home. If they're out there working just to pay the daycare lady, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's better to stay home and take care of your children. We went through this as parents, had our children in daycare, and generally they were spread out enough so it was only one at a time, but we did have a time when we had 2 kids in daycare, and that was really, really hard. I sometimes wonder, should my wife even be working? Because most of what she made was going to the daycare. And that's something we need to think about. I sometimes think about government gets involved in things that the public or the private industry can't do very well, and this could very well be one of those things that government needs to take a look at.
Thank you. The opportunity for 30-second rebuttal? If not, the question moves to Mr. Sourdough. What is the state doing? I said sourdough. I'm getting a strong objection to the way I pronounce your name. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing it. Ray, here is the question. What is the state doing and what more can they do to address the need for child care? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
This is extremely difficult because childcare, you want to protect the kids, so you have to do the background checks, and you have to have the people that are qualified and want to work and be working with these kids. So as far as the state, could they do more? Maybe loosen up some of the regulations, as Daryl was saying, but without how do I say this? Without knowing all the facts and knowing what exactly we can do, whether it be on the county level to bring initiatives, that's a difficult question.
30 seconds for rebuttal. And the question moves on to Julie Bolduc. What is the state doing and what more can they do to address the need for childcare? What is the county doing and what more can they do to address the need for childcare? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Okay. As for the state, I'm not really sure what the state is doing for childcare. My kids haven't been in daycare for years. As for the county, I know we have some good daycare providers in town. I think if we somehow could help out with like some training or do some, I'm not even 100% sure on all that. I'm not sure what all the regulations and all that are for that. I just know there is a shortage because when I go to work, I hear a lot about it. I'm not sure if maybe like some businesses could start some daycares or something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I haven't had my kids in daycare for quite some time.
And opportunity for rebuttal. If not, we'll thank all 3 of you, District 4 and District 2, for being here this evening. We'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back with candidates for Thief River Falls City Council. Thank you, good evening, and welcome back to the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls. As we turn to candidates for Thief River Falls City Council, we'll be starting with introductions, and we're going to go straight across all wards that are present this evening. So our introductions will be 2 minutes each, starting with Ward 1, where the candidates include incumbent Alderman Kurt Howe and challenger Megan Bourne. The incumbent candidate, Kurt Howe. You have 2 minutes for your introduction, Kurt. Can you pull your mic in just a little bit more, sir? There you go. Little more, and lean into that. Megan, we're going to be asking you to do the same thing too in a second. Pull her in just a little bit more. Yep, your mic is friendly, Kurt. We do need you to pull that mic a little closer to you, Alderman Howe. And there you go, just lean into it when you talk. Okay, Kurt, you have 2 minutes for your introduction and your time starts now.
Well, my name's Kurt Howe. I'm Ward 1 representative now. I'm on my second term on the 8th year. I'm very proud to be Ward 1 representative and councilman of the city of Thief River Falls. I'm a resident of Thief River Falls for over 50 years. I live at the same residence in Thief River Falls as I did when I moved here. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I came out of the service in 1970. I worked construction for 10 years, and then I was offered a job with the city of Thief River Falls, and I held that position for 28 and a half years as a supervisor for the city of Thief River Falls. I supervised the old arena at that time, the Huck Olson Arena, the whole park system, the baseball fields at that time. I worked with the budgets of the Park and Recreation Department, and I was also a co-director at one time. I'm presently on the Administrative Services Board with the city. I'm also on the Airport Authority with Mr. Tweetbot. I'm also on the Administrative Services, Public Works Committee, Met Committee, and very proud of being a council member. So I hope to continue this for the next term, and I thank the taxpayers of Thief River Falls for allowing me to be a representative of Ward 1. I'm not only Ward 1 representative, but I'm also all the taxpayers representative of Thief River Falls. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ward 1 challenger, Megan Bourne. Megan, you have 2 minutes to make your introduction, and your time starts now.
Hello, my name is Megan Bourne. Originally, I am from Golden Valley, Minnesota, which is down in the cities. I attended South Dakota State University, which is in Brookings, South Dakota. After that, I decided to move out to California. And I got to live the California lifestyle, which is very expensive and not ideal for raising a family. So back to Minnesota, I came, and it was kind of a culture shock. I was used to living in a big city, and so I was a new mom, and I found it kind of hard to get myself out there. So I decided to start a small business. I went on to Etsy, and it grew substantially, much more than I had ever anticipated. And I ended up in 15 stores throughout Minnesota. And as my family grew, I decided that I was going to table that for a little while and stay home. And so that's what I did. So you can fast forward till now. And now I am a stepmom of 7 kids. And we also run a small business here in town, Premier Cleaning. And we are a very sports-forward family, so all of our free time is spent in the hockey arena. And I would rather have it no other way than that. We love hockey in our house. Being that we run a small business, we have a very healthy balance in our business and our home life, which I think is important in running for a public office. I think Thief River needs a healthy balance in small business and also large business. And I also feel that Thief River needs a healthy community and enough things for small families to do. So they're going to tell me I'm running out of time. So that is a little bit of a background on me, and thank you very much. I'm out of time.
Thank you, Megan. In Ward 5, oh, she would hate that. I'm sorry. Incumbent Rachel Prudhomme is not seeking re-election. We do have two of the candidates for that office here tonight, David Rist and Scott John Preem. David, you will have the first opportunity for introduction. You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
I would first like to say that it's a pleasure and honor to be here. I would like to thank the Chamber, TRF Radio, the Eagles, and everyone here tonight. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I've been a resident of Thief River Falls for 11 years. I am married to my beautiful wife, Mindy Rist, who's in the audience today, for 13. We have a house in Ward 5. I've been all over the world. I've done a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of different things. And each time I do something different, I come back to this great state. And when I finally met my wife, we decided to move up here to Thief River Falls, and this is where we came to stay. I'm happy, I love this town, and I want to make it better. I've been attending all the city council meetings and the committee meetings since May of this year, so I'm up on most of the issues that we have going on in this town. Let's see. It was very important to me that in the months before that I put in my bid that I was 100% sure that not only could I handle the work, but excel at it. I don't want to be just another politician running to fill a seat. I want to be prepared to hit the ground running. I want to represent Ward 5 in the best way possible. It's time for fresh blood and a new path, to solve our current problems, and to look to the long-term future of Thief River Falls so that the generation that follows us can enjoy the town even more than we did when we were gone. I'm here to get things done. My goal is to break the chains holding us back, to do my part to make sure that we leave our great city in the position that we can grow and prosper for years to come. I want to be the strong voice and make the right decisions as the representative of my ward and the people of TRF. I encourage you to check out my Facebook page, and that's all I've got. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Rist. Yes, the other candidate we have with us this night in Ward 5 is Scott John Preem. Scott, you...
John Scott Preem.
Yes, that's the way it'll be on the ballot, right?
So,
okay.
I'd like to thank the Chamber and TRF Radio as well as the Eagles to host this. And thank you for all the people that are here attending as well as people that are listening on the radio. I'm a lifelong resident of Thief River Falls, and I've been retired for the last 3 years from Arctic Cat. And I decided that I've been interested in city politics for a long time, and I finally decided maybe I should put my foot in water and see what it's going to be like and try to do something. And I guess that's all I have to say. I'm a proud resident of Thief River Falls. I love this community. I've lived here all my life, and I think it's a great community to raise a family, and it's just a friendly community. I walk the streets every day. I get honked at and waved at, and it's just great. I love the people of Thief River Falls. Thank you.
Thank you. Two of our three candidates in Ward 5. The third candidate in Ward 5 is Nicholas Kalinowski, who is not with us this evening. Also representing at large our incumbent alderman, Stephen Narvrud. And Mr. Narvrud, we'll ask you for your introduction now. You have 2 minutes, starting now.
I'm Stephen Narvrud. I'm a candidate for re-election to alderman at large for the city of Thief River Falls. Thanks to the Eagles. Thank you, KTRF. Thank you, Key. And I'd like to thank the Chamber also. My background is predominantly in business. I was in business here for many, many years at the Cleaners. I started out sweeping floors and ended up managing it. One of the things that we've run into here in the city, and everyone's kind of talked about how difficult it is to find people. It's one of the things we need to do here. we keep pushing. I'm aggressively working to secure more affordable housing for everyone, including apartments and single-family homes in our friendly community. I'm trying to push for some positive promotion of Thief River Falls, not only throughout the region, but the state and beyond. It's something we really haven't done very well, is toot our own horn, and that's one of the things I think we desperately have to do. As a community, we're creating and improving our outdoor recreational communities, walking trails, bike paths, and new playground equipment in our parks. And it's something I'm also passionate about. I'm passionate about public works, our roads, how we get to where we go. And in our country, we put up with the snow and how we can best get it out of our way. I've enjoyed working on the city council, and I'm passionate about making Thief River Falls a wonderful place to live and work. And I'd like you to re-elect me as your Alderman at Large for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Narud. And I just want to make one more check. I was told that the candidate in this ward would be here this evening, Kanan Langley, and just making one call to make sure Mr. Langley is not in our live audience. Okay, and so we'll go back to Ward 1, and our question for our candidates in Ward 1. Remind me who drew the short straw. Okay, so Megan, our first question starts with you. Over the next 4 years, what do you see as the greatest challenge facing residents in Ward 1? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
I would say, even as a community in the whole, I would say that I would like to see more things for small families to do, young families. I would say that I would like to see a lot of small businesses be supported, maybe a little bit more than they are now. And I would say that I would love to see a little more community come together, more things to do in the summer to bring people into Thief River. So, you know, I am not a career politician, and I don't, you know, I maybe don't know the politically correct things to say all the time, but I'm a mom of 7, and I know that there is a serious lack in Thief River of, you know, fun things to do to keep people here in the summer, so.
And now our question moves to Alderman Kurt Howe. Kurt, the greatest challenge facing residents in Ward 1. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Challenges, that's a good question here that you're asking us here. Being Ward 1 representative of the Alderman here in Thief River Falls, there's a lot of challenges. And I think number one challenge in Thief River Falls and that stuff in Ward 1 is that we're the oldest ward in the city as Ward 1 here. There's a lot of old houses in the Thief River Falls here, and we're dealing with a bunch of them right in this area, one right north of our Eagles here right now that we're trying to clean up. I think we need to clean up a lot of these neighborhoods and that with the oldest ward in Thief River Falls that we're dealing with here. Not only that, but to help the residents of Thief River Falls and that stuff, rebuild these and that stuff, take these old houses down, build new lots and that, and then make sure that we're going forward and not backwards and that each day. There's a lot of things that we can improve in Ward 1 here, and I think that the challenges and that stuff are ahead, and that so the next 4 years are very challenging, that stuff for myself or whoever represents this ward. Thank you.
And Megan, you have an opportunity for 30-second rebuttal.
No comment.
Okay, and Kurt, a 30-second final response. Anything else you'd like to say? Okay. Our second question will be starting with Alderman Howe. Our second question in Ward 1, which includes the majority of riverbank property in Thief River Falls. What needs to happen to improve the river for both recreation and as a reservoir for city drinking water? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Well, we're dealing right now and that stuff with the reservoir in Thief River Falls and that stuff as far as clean water. A lot of our water comes from both directions, from the east and then from the west, or not from the west, but from the north. The north is considered a ditch, and it's dirty water that comes off all the fields, along with the Red Lake River also. But we're looking right now on that stuff to encourage and that stuff to get fresh water and that off the Red Lake River for our water system here in Thief River Falls. Our embankment and that stuff right now is falling into the river. We're working on that, and that so that we can get that repaired and that so that we can use the banks as a reservoir and not deterioration. So as far as the reservoir in the Thief River Falls and that stuff, we need to clean it up, use the clean water and that stuff here, use the resources we have in the river here and that stuff. And so, I mean, that's a big part of that stuff at Thief River Falls. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question moves to Megan Bourne, how to improve the river for both recreation and as a reservoir for city drinking water. You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
I think cleaning up the water in Thief River is a huge problem that we have. I think that using all the resources that we have to get the water clean is probably top of the list of things that need to happen. I cringe when I see people swimming in the river, and I feel like that's something that definitely needs to change. I'm not currently on city council now, so I don't know the measures currently that are being taken to take care of that, but that is definitely something that needs to be addressed, and everything needs to be put to make sure that we do have clean drinking water and clean recreational water here in Thief River.
Thank you. Alderman Howe, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Okay. And a final response, Ms. Bourne. Okay. Thank you. Thief River Falls candidates, Ward 1. Moving on to Thief River Falls, Ward 5, and Mr. Rist, I believe you drew the short straw, is that right? So our first question goes to you. What can the City Council do to moderate the tax impact for city property owners? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
2 simple words: dilution and expansion. We need more people in this town. We need more business in this town. We need more tax base in this town. We don't want to raise taxes. Taxes aren't something that we want to see go up every single year, year after year after year. However, tax capacity is a totally different story. If we can bring more people on board, more businesses, more houses, we can add to the pool, and therefore everybody pays less. That's really the big thing that's going on right now in this town. And honestly, I don't really have to say much more than that. Scott, do you have any input?
We'll let him answer the question in just a moment.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Scott, we're going to reread the question for you, and then you'll have 2 minutes, okay? So the question that we'd like a response to, what can the City Council do to moderate the tax impact for city property owners? You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Well, the question is obvious. We need more people in Thief River Falls. The more people we have, the more housing we have, the more taxes they pay to stop the increase every year. I'm not a big fan of increasing taxes, but with inflation the way it is and salaries going up to keep our people here that are working, are good employees of the city, what can you do but raise taxes? And it's a sad situation. It's a very sad situation, but I always say there is such a thing in Minnesota as a tax rebate, property tax rebate. And if you look into that, you can get a pretty nice chunk of money every year from the state as a property tax rebate. Again, the more people we have in the city, the more housing we have in the city, the less our tax burden would be on each individual homeowner.
And you do have 30 seconds for rebuttal, Mr. Rist.
I think the one thing that, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. The one thing that drives me nuts is people are leaving. They don't want to pay the higher and higher and higher city and county taxes every single year. So they're going to Marshall County. They're going to Red Lake County. They're going outside of the city limits. They're moving to farmsteads. You know, if you actually look at the population of this town for the last 50 years, it is dead, stagnant, flatline across the board, 8,700 people. We cannot continue to operate like that.
Your 30 seconds. And a final 30-second comment from you, Mr. Preen.
Nothing.
Okay. Our second question then for the candidates in Ward 5. Does the city of Thief River Falls have too many tax increment financing TIF districts? And how is tax increment financing affecting city property taxes? We're going to start this question with Mr. Preen, Mr. Riss, that's fine. And you have 2 minutes, Scott, starting now.
The TIF is a two-edged sword. To get people in town, to build business in town, we need this tax increment funding. So the tax base, it has to be paid by the people that aren't under this. So our taxes do go up because of that. But to get people in, businesses in Thief River Falls, get like the Grace Wind and all that, and the apartments we want to build out by Valley Home, you have to do something like that to get people in. And isn't that our goal, is to get more people into Thief River Falls? That's what I would say. It's good and it's bad, but I think it's something we have to have.
And thank you. And that same question then to you, Mr. Riss. Do we have too many TIF districts, and how is tax increment financing affecting city property taxes? You have 2 minutes, starting now.
The short answer is yes. I do believe there's too many tax districts. However, you have to understand that TIFs are a tool, okay? They're not necessarily an evil thing. They're a tool to be used for community development within the city. Now, do I believe some TIFs are requested with malice or malintent, or with the idea of potentially opening up profit margins for developers? Yes. However, there are ways to use TIFs that are beneficial to the community. And I'm not talking the statutory limit of 26 years. I'm talking like 5 to 9 years. And when we use TIFs, we really need to be using TIFs to benefit the community more than it's benefiting, say, an incoming developer. And it's not that we don't want to issue TIFs. It's that we want to issue TIFs right. For example, using TIFs to encourage the building of more daycares in this town. That is something that I'd like to see moving forward.
Thank you. And you have 30-second rebuttal, Scott?
Well, I feel the same way, that we need the TIFs. We definitely need them. And like I said, it's a two-edged sword, but it's something we have to have to get people to develop Thief River Falls, bringing business into Thief River Falls.
And a 30-second final comment. Dave?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay. Our candidates for City Council in Ward 5. Thank you. And we are going to excuse our candidates in Ward 1 and Ward 5. You can leave the podium thank you, as we continue with our at-large candidates. And we'd also like to join the table Mayor Brian Holmer and Ward 3, Steve Lawrenson. Mike Lawrenson? Mike Lawrenson. Oh, my apologies. Okay. Man, everyone is a Steve to me tonight. Okay, I'm gonna, once we get settled at the table, then Alderman Narvrud, we will have an introduction to questions for you. At least 2 questions. We did the introduction, didn't we? Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, find your mics if you would, gentlemen. And our first question then is to Alderman Narvrud, as I turn the page. What can the City Council do to encourage economic growth in the city of Thief River Falls? You have 2 minutes, starting now.
One of the things we've already talked about is a TIF. It helps. It's a tool we can use. Do we have too many of them? We still have people that are asking. In my opinion, if it helps, we need the growth. I'm not denying that at all. And I think it's probably one of the best little tools that we can use. It does not add to taxes. These people, for the most part, are building brand new buildings. The only thing that they would need would be probably fire and police protection. We are still getting the utilities out of them, electric, water, sewer, all the other things that we do. And so we're not losing money on TIFs for the most part. And eventually, that building is going to come back online, and we are going to make some money.
And our second question of the evening. The Ralph Engelstad and Huck Olson arenas continue to operate at a loss, $515,854 in the most recent city audit. It is the only city enterprise fund that operates in the red. Is the loss acceptable considering the dollars brought into the community, restaurants, lodging, and shopping? And is there a way for the arenas to operate at a profit? You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
It is probably never going to operate in the black. I'll be quite blunt. I've talked to our representatives. For the most part, they chuckle at me when I talk to them about it because most arenas don't make money. Can we help that deficit? Yes. One of the things we need, obviously, more things going on. We lost one of them when we lost the Norskis. Our hopes were that after COVID, we would be picking up and that deficit would be going towards the black. It had been doing better up until we hit COVID. That's our hope. That is one of the reasons that we brought on Venue Works. They seem to be doing probably a better job than we can. They know how to run these arenas. And their whole program when they started was that they would reduce the deficit. And from what I could tell before COVID, it was starting to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Narvrud, incumbent at large in Thief River Falls. Thank you. You're excused. You can sit down. You can leave, yes. Thank you very much for being here tonight. In Thief River Falls, for the City Council, we have 2 people that are running unopposed. Mike Lawrenson is the incumbent alderman in Ward 3, and Brian Homer is the incumbent mayor for the city of Thief River Falls. We have some questions for both of you, but we're going to start tonight with introductions. First to Mr. Lawrenson, your introduction, 2 minutes, starting now.
My name is Mike Lawrenson. My wife and I have been both born and raised in northern Minnesota. We elected to make Thief River Falls our home. We have lived here for roughly 15 years. We have 11 children. Yes, you did hear that correct. 11 children, 6 boys, 5 girls, and 2.5 grandchildren. I have vested interest in making sure that this community is a place for our children to stay. I hate to see our children grow up and leave the community, and you scratch your head and you're trying to figure out why are they leaving the community. You really want to see what can entice them to stay here. And I guess that's the drive that I have. I'm passionate about listening to people. I try and do my best to go door to door and seeing people, as well as leave my phone available for people to call me, text me, email me. That's very important to me. I would like to thank everyone here for coming and showing your support and showing your interest. That is important to me. And I'd like to thank all of those who have put this whole event on. It's great to, even though I'm unopposed, it's great to have, so.
Thank you. Mike Lawrenson in Ward 3. Mayor Homer will go straight to introduction. You have 2 minutes, and that starts now.
Hello, I'm Brian Homer. I am a lifelong resident of Minnesota. I live in the community with my wife Heidi. I have 2 children, both proud prowlers. I've been your mayor for the last 8 years. I'm really proud of what we've done. If we turn back the time clock to 2015 with the empty residents, businesses downtown, and I'm proud of the revitalization of our downtown, the full businesses we had, the economy that we've encountered through the COVID crisis. I've really been proud of the advocacy I've done over the 8 years of bringing money that we've, throughout the years that we've never pursued on a lot of the projects from state to federal funding through the airport, through our West Side diversion, the multiple projects through our community. So I plan on being, if I'm reelected, and I am running unopposed, but I still plan on, with the same energy and passion and enthusiasm that I bring to the community, And with that, do have a strong voice in the state. I am the president of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. I've been appointed to many different councils and committees, and I'm very proud to bring back the money back to Thief River Falls that our community deserves, and be the highlight of Northwest Minnesota.
Running unopposed, gentlemen, is a mandate to rule. We have 3 questions for you. Of course, this is not a debate format for these 2 positions, no. So we don't want you to argue over this, but we are going to ask you the 3 questions, and we'd like a response from each of you. You will both have 2 minutes to make all the responses. So starting with Alderman Lawrenson, with a workforce of only 8,527 people and unemployment in Pennington County at 2.2%, what can city government do to help local businesses find and retain the employees they need to continue to grow? 2 minutes, Alderman Lawrenson, starting now.
Well, the city council does work closely with a number of the larger employers, and actually Ward 3 does hold the 3 largest employers for this for the city of Thief River Falls, and I try and do my best to hear out what their concerns are. I also take an opportunity to head down to state capitol when I can, and or connect with our representatives to discuss some of the concerns we do have in our city and see what we can do to work together to get that unemployment or the employment to come up to this area.
Mayor Homer, the same question. What can city government do to help local businesses find and retain the employees they need to grow?
Well, one is we have a 3-legged problem. We have a workforce shortage, we have a housing shortage, we have a daycare shortage, and all 3 of them need to stand up tall. One thing I've been doing is working with the state and the DEED and Department of Economic Development, and trying to pursue grants and possible legislation that would help us in them needs of getting the housing that we need for our community, as far as and also how do we revitalize some of the regulations and stuff involved in child care, so that we are allowed to have our child care and our daycare centers that can operate at a reasonable margin, so we can get it brought in our community, because we know what the deficit that has brought to us. So I'm going to continue to pursue as many grants as possible and trying to keep the economic development with the businesses trying to survive, and keep progress moving as we move forward.
Thank you, sir. Our second question, again back to Alderman Lawrenson. A large portion of the old hospital in downtown Thief River Falls continue to sit as something of an eyesore, abandoned and waiting for demolition. What is the current status of that property, and how would you like to see that property developed?
I believe in our last city council meeting, it was announced that there is a potential buyer for that that building, and we should be seeing it tore down very shortly.
Can you add to that, Mayor Holmer?
I will say there is a buyer, there is a purchase agreement signed. I can't tell you who, because I didn't get that notification, but Sanford has acknowledged that the purchase agreement was signed, and that the developer is currently looking for demolition to proceed ASAP. So I'm proud to announce that. It's a long time running. It's been an eyesore for our community. It should have been probably taken down years ago, but there's been certain delays and other things that have encountered. Sometimes we get thrown a curveball here and there, and that's what's happened. But now it's all right at fruition, and it's time to move forward with it. And it would be nice to see possibly a multi-complex business down there, maybe with some retail and maybe hotel or apartment buildings to support our downtown.
So we don't know who the purchaser was, but have you just given us a hint as to how the property will be developed?
At this time, I do not know. I just know that last night, just prior to our council meeting, I was handed a note that there was a purchase agreement signed, and that they were moving forward with looking for construction demolition crews to come in and move it down.
Thank you, gentlemen. And our final question of the evening will start again with Mr. Lawrenson. The outdoor swimming pool fund is now at $257,219.54. What is the plan?
Well, I appreciate you bringing the point that there is an actual balance in there, because that is one question that is brought up continually, that the funds are spent somewhere, and that isn't necessarily the case. I actually have sat on the aquatic board trying to find either grants or other options to partner with groups to help pay for a pool. And there is some big concerns there, and just like the Ralph Engelstad Arena, there is going to be a burden on their swimming pools. Do not make money. I look at the city of Warren. There is, I believe, the last time we checked, there is a $40,000 spend that the city actually has to pay for to keep that swimming pool afloat, and that's based on some of the information that I've received. But yes, I have been on that board trying to figure out different ways to be creative on getting a pool. The big problem that we have is that we want to do something that's decent, big, and can supply an area for our kids to play year-round, because obviously there is not a lot of days in northern Minnesota where you can swim decently. And you know, it gets to a point where we like, okay, let's make it do this. Let's build a shelter. Let's build it this way, and it gets to a point where it becomes unaffordable. And so at that point in time, we need to probably look at what we can do within our means and take a step back and accept maybe something a little bit smaller, but yet we can grow from there.
Mayor Holmer, can you add to that?
I can say that I'm going to go ditto on a lot of his comments, and knowing the position I'm in, I've talked to many mayors throughout the state, and they said there's two things you're going to lose money at. That's arenas and swimming pools. But I would like to use the rest of my time for some exciting news. That you had a comment about our clean water and the use of our reservoir, and currently with our current council, we do have proposals that we've been working with the Corps of Engineers to do a study on our basin and our clean water and the actual relocation of our water pipes. These are some of the things that I've been lobbying on, and the bigger issues that some people don't normally see, but it results in millions of dollars back to the city. And my position as a mayor is basically running the meetings and providing my input, but I do need the other 7 council members to be on the same page, and I do need them to help us grow. So we a lot of times when we run the meetings, we agree to disagree a lot of times, but it isn't unhealthy to do that. We need the input of the citizens, and I'm always available to hear any voice there is out there, but know that there's a lot bigger issues that sometimes residents don't see that we're actually working on that are going to save millions in us ultimately. So thank you.
Thank you. And a final comment, Mr. Sorensen.
Well, I guess, I would like to veer off on another topic as well that was brought up tonight, and that was actually the TIF topic, if I'm okay bringing that up. I believe one of the candidates said it well, it is a two-edged sword, but I think we also need to kind of rear that one back a little bit and say, okay, we need to say what's more realistic for the taxpayers. There are some TIF districts in some TIF processes that have been passed prior to me being in the seat that I'm in, that they passed like a 20-some year TIF. That's not realistic. I get it that an investor wants to come to Thief River Falls, but at 26 years, the city has to, at some point in time, redo the roads and redo some of the infrastructure, and that is 100% on us taxpayers at that point in time, because we have only recouped the small amount of funds that we've gotten from the general tax on that property. So I like to say TIFs are important, but within reason. We need to be very, very balanced on there to make sure that's good. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Our candidates running unopposed, Ward 3 and Mayor of Thief River Falls. And that completes the Great Candidate Debate 2022. The great American journalist Sidney Harris once said, "Democracy is the only system that persists in asking the powers that be whether they are the powers that ought to be." Our thanks tonight to all of our sponsors and to the Chamber and Thief River Falls Radio. And remember, by mail-in ballot, absentee ballot, or in person on Election Day, November 8th, you decide the powers that be. Get out and vote. From the Eagles Hall in Thief River Falls, I'm Key Teeter.